going? Welcome to today's installment of Mike's Vehicle Vlogs, and I want to thank you for joining me today. It's been, I think, a little while at this point since we've done a vlog from the desk. I don't really have any actual car stuff going on at the moment. The Saab needs an alternator. We're going to wait on that for a little bit, and other than that, this entire weekend's been killing me as far as the change in the weather goes, because we had a lot of snow last week. It got really cold, and then like Thursday into Friday, the weather's changed drastically, and we got up to close to 60 degrees at one point, and yeah, my face hurts, and I've had like migraines all weekend, and because we had a thunderstorm earlier, so. Yeah, so if I seem a little off, it's just because of the discomfort I'm feeling in my face. But other than that, we're good. It's supposed to go back to snow tomorrow, rain and snow mixed tomorrow. So I don't know. This was a topic that I've had in my back pocket. Thought about maybe talking about it at some point. And then it wasn't really until Thanksgiving. I actually had my father-in-law brought it up. He's always asking me stuff. We always have a discussion about cars and stuff like that. And every now and then we get on the topic of the EV cars. So that was brought up again. At some point on Thanksgiving, and him and I talked about it. And I think the real reason why I don't usually talk about stuff like this is I don't really express anything political. I usually keep all of my opinions and stuff to myself. And this kind of falls in line with car politics in a way. So I know eventually we're going to talk about it. Might as well do it now. I am not 100% sold on the EV cars, if I'm being honest with you. I don't know. I honestly, at this point, just see too many cons compared to the pros of it. But I know it's going to happen eventually. All cars are eventually going to be fully electric. And it's going to be some time. I know, from what I'm reading here, California right now is only requiring that all new cars sold in 2035 and beyond are at zero emissions, which means pure electric cars. Zero emissions, obviously, meaning there's no, a normal gasoline engine being used. California's got that, and something else that I searched said gasoline cars will probably, by 2050 be gone. So it's, there's a couple of different things that I was reading up on before starting this. So yeah, eventually, all of these cars are going to be fully electric, and I get the reasons why we think that we're doing better for the environment by not, polluting the air with, the emissions, exhaust from normal gasoline vehicles. Yeah, and then the whole fossil fuel thing. Eventually we may run out of gas at some point in time. There's a bunch of things that I've heard, so I don't know. I just want to share, my opinion on it. Like I said, this is eventually something that I think is going to come up, and I'm probably not I know I'm not the only one that feels this way. Just me talking to my father-in-law, he feels pretty much the same way. The more that we're talking about it, it's just, at least right now, we don't, see it as the best, thing for the cars. And there's reasons for that. The first reason that I have, honestly, is the range. So I honestly thought hybrids would be the best way to go. With the hybrid vehicle, obviously you have the best of both worlds. You've got a small engine, gasoline engine, that only gets used when either the hybrid battery is low or if you need a little extra of that power boost. But for the most part, the gasoline engine in a hybrid vehicle doesn't get used like it would if it were a non-hybrid car, a regular gasoline engine car. So with that, at least you're guaranteed with more range. And that battery level goes low, you have a backup. You have a backup. The range on the EV cars, I will say, they have gotten better. I remember, let me see. I remember when I was doing Mike's Vehicle Spotlight, and I looked at the brand new, it was brand new then, just came out, the 2012 Nissan Leaf. That was the first fully electric car that I'd ever captured for Mike's Vehicle Spotlight. I was very excited to go see it. It was something different. And, it was one of the first, I think, fully electric cars to hit the market at the time. But, that range, that car only got a roughly 73 mile range. I think the one, when I test drove it brand new, I think the sales guy told me it was around 90 or 100, brand new. But that's, I don't know if it was just because it was brand new, but the stats from what I'm seeing here, maybe as the car gets driven and the battery gets worn in and stuff, you're looking at around 73 miles. And that was, like I mentioned, in 2012 for the Nissan Leaf. The brand new 2023 Nissan Leaf, we're 11 years later, and it can get up to anywhere between 150 and 215 miles on its battery, from what I'm reading here. Now, that is a huge improvement, by far. We are definitely making some progress with these, the battery packs and the range and stuff. To me, though, it still doesn't seem like something that I would honestly want to trust 100%. Road trips, and that's leading me to my next topic here, the charging. Road trips are definitely going to be different. My wife and I took our 17 Honda Civic down to Myrtle Beach. From here, it is roughly a 12 to 13 hour drive. And in that car, I only had to stop one time to fill it up. One time halfway there, in Princeton, West Virginia, is where I stopped. And when I got to Myrtle Beach, I still had over a quarter of a tank of gas left. I filled up there before we left, drove back to Princeton, where we still had a quarter of a tank. We filled it up again, and we made it home. That pit stop is very quick. So the range and the charging obviously go hand in hand. I do not think we would make it down to Myrtle Beach in even this Nissan Leaf. If it's saying 215 miles, we're still in Ohio, I'm pretty sure, at that point. We may just be out of Ohio, but yeah, so there's no way we could take an electric car down there like that. And if we did, we would have to make sure that there's a charging station available. Obviously, gas stations are everywhere. There's a good chance you're never far from a gas station when you need it. But, there aren't many of these electric charging stations out there yet. And, you really have to make sure, I'm thinking you would really have to make sure, where you're going to stop and hope that the car, makes it. Because all of this range is these numbers change because you got to configure the usage of what the car is actually using, like air conditioning or the heater on full blast, or just stuff like that. Some of that stuff definitely takes a toll on the battery, alongside temperature, the weather outside. Is it winter? If it's in the winter, you're probably going to have shorter range because the battery's colder. And in the summer, you're probably going to have better range because the battery isn't as cold. It's a little warmer outside. So stuff like that, kind of takes into consideration also. And, that just, plus the time it takes for these cars to charge. I mean, you're going to have these charging stations, and a lot of them are probably offering quick charging. Now, offhand, I don't know what the average time for quick charging is, but it's definitely not as long, or it's longer than what it would take to fill a car up with gas. I mean, and it just seems like it's going to be an inconvenience, but and then the fact that the fast charging, if you consistently fast charge a battery, and I'm saying any battery, it doesn't necessarily have to be these specific, battery packs that are in these cars, but I mean, your cell phone battery, this camera battery, this other battery pack I've seen here. If you try to force too much of a charge into it at once, it's going to actually depreciate that battery a lot quicker than it would be to give it a slower charge. So everybody's probably going to want to be, doing these quick charges, at these stations, which is going to be understandable because, you don't want to be sitting there for a half hour, so I don't know. I don't know. I think a lot of people also think that, just because you're diving into an EV car, that you're not going to have to worry about any kind of maintenancing on it. That is not true. You're obviously still going to have your basic maintenancing. You're still going to have, to do tire rotations. You're still going to have to do, brake jobs. Like standard maintenance stuff in that aspect is still going to be in play here. You're not going to have engine oil to change like every 3 to 5 to 7,000 miles. But you're still going to most likely have a 12-volt battery system that, is responsible for all of the accessories and waking up the actual, EV battery pack, the drivetrain batteries. But like we got this, Honda's coming out with this Prologue SUV. It's fully electric. It's the first Honda EV in a few years. And, at work, we're learning about it because it's going to be at the dealership sometime next year. The shop has to get ready for it. So, we're learning about this stuff. But, just because it's an EV car, like I said, it's still going to need maintenance in several areas. It's going to have basically a specific kind of, I don't want to say transmission fluid because it doesn't really have a transmission, but the electric motors they drive a differential, for the front and rear if it's all-wheel drive and such. But basically, whichever axle is getting the drive wheels, there is going to be a fluid that's going to have to be changed regularly. If it's all-wheel drive, you're going to have two, one for the front, one for the back. Those both have to be changed. The fluid in those have to be changed together. You're going to have a specific kind of coolant. Not to mention, most EVs probably have two cooling systems. One cooling system specifically for the comfort of your passengers, your cabin. It's going to be responsible for heat and such. But you're going to have a cooling system also for the battery. There's a cooling system that runs through the battery. It has to be a non-conductive coolant, obviously, because if you're putting a liquid through a battery, but that's how the batteries have to stay cool. They have to run off of a special coolant. So, you may think there's no maintenance to these EVs, but that's not true. There might be a little less, but there's probably going to be stuff that's going to make up for or make up close to what you're actually sacrificing with the gasoline engine. You won't have tune-ups, you won't have spark plugs, obviously, to tune up, or, you probably won't have any kind of serpentine belts to check and change, or stuff like that. Most of this stuff is probably going to be software updates, and that's going to also eliminate a lot of backyard mechanics out there, people who like to actually service their own vehicles. You probably, at least I'm not seeing it now, unless you've got the tools and you've got access to all the good hardware and stuff, or the software that you're going to need. But I think for the most part, no one is going to be able to really service these EVs unless maybe you're doing the brake job at home. And some people nowadays don't even do that, because most cars have electric parking brakes, and you usually will need a scan tool to put the back brakes in service mode. So a lot of people can't even do brake jobs at their house anymore because of the electronics going into it. These batteries, they're dangerous. They are very powerful, and even I haven't had the chance to work on them. I have not seen an EV or a hybrid, for that matter, actually get serviced at any of the dealerships that I've been at so far, where the battery pack has to be serviced or anything. But there's a lot of precautions that have to go into it. These will kill you if you do not have the proper safety equipment to service these batteries. You have to basically wear a suit. You're wearing what kind of looks like a hazmat suit, and you have to make sure that you have these properly insulated gloves. You have to use insulated tools. You got to make sure to shut the battery pack off in a correct procedure. One mishap with these types of services, and you could be electrocuted. It could be to the point where there's a specific tool that they actually have in a lot of EV service shops, where if you see somebody getting electrocuted, you obviously can't touch them. And they can't move because their nervous system's obviously, so they're kind of stuck. You're stuck there. And there's a tool, it's like a stick, but it's like an insulated stick, and it kind of helps you pull them away from what, they're getting electrocuted on. It's a very safe or unsafe method, and it's very, you got to be very cautious with it. And, for all the hobbyists out there, EVs, I think, they're just boring overall. There's going to be no more old school car culture, the people who, the kids who grew up with parents that had, like Firebirds and Camaros, and even in my case, Aztecs and Grand Dams, the whole hobby of actually working on a gasoline engine is eventually going to be a thing of the past, and it's going to be sad. And I honestly think the EV cars are just boring. The power of an EV is incredible. In most cases, they are very strong. You hit the pedal to the floor and you're gone. The power is there on demand. It's not like a gasoline engine where you have to have the engine build the power up. It's a lot different with an EV, and that's really the one thing that I think is awesome about them. Is just how quick they can be, but they're just so boring. You don't have the engine growl, and for me, I like being able to hear, the engine, rev high. I like hearing the exhaust notes, and I don't know. It just seems kind of boring, But yeah, I honestly feel like the hybrids were, the best thing to have. I don't like the idea of gasoline engines being written off entirely, in time. I really think cars today, the ones that still run on gasoline, are definitely a lot more fuel efficient compared to cars 10 years ago and compared to cars 10 years ago from that. I mean, they've gotten a lot better to the point where most cars don't even have V6 engines anymore. A lot of cars are relying on turbocharged four cylinders, and the turbocharger is picking up, the slack of, the other two cylinders being gone. But I don't know. I feel like that was the peak. I feel like that was where we should have, tried to stay. I know there's still some hybrids out there. I do work on hybrids just about every day. Some services with them, but I don't know. I personally, just from what I do know, and from the people that I've talked to, and it doesn't seem like the EVs are the best way to go at this time, and that's just my opinion. Like I said, it might mean nothing to you, and that's okay. Um, you know, I'm just saying that I feel like within the last couple years anyway, all of a sudden, all these manufacturers are really pushing EVs out like crazy. And I feel like we're just not ready for it yet. I don't. I feel like the infrastructure is not all there yet. There still aren't a lot of charging stations. I think in my area, there's only one that I know of, and there's a lot of area to cover for one charging station. So I'm just not too. I'm not too sold on it at this time. Hopefully, before like these deadlines that we kind of saw here, hopefully, there's more access, obviously, to these charging stations, and we need to continue to make these batteries safer. I mean, there's too many cars just catching fire randomly because of these battery packs. Cars just sitting, not being used, and they just go up in flames. The fire departments have to know how to handle, an EV fire. They don't burn like a regular car fire does. An EV fire is a lot worse. You really can't put it out. It's just gonna keep burning. And if you do get it out, there's a chance it's gonna rekindle itself and burn again. So I don't know. Like I said, this is just my opinion. I knew eventually, I was gonna talk about it, but this is just going off of the stuff that I know. Now, a lot of the stuff that I'm saying could be wrong. I could be wrong in a lot of aspects of it. This is just what I know. Okay, and I don't want to get into it with the comment section if I get the people who are defending the EVs, or you can leave your comments if you want, but I'm not going to argue with anybody about it. This is just how I feel about it. I honestly like gasoline cars a lot more, because it's a system that we've used for so long. We pretty much have it down pat. There's access to gasoline everywhere. But I know eventually that, we're going to have to get rid of these. And if anything, we should just stick with the hybrids. I feel like you really can't go wrong with the hybrids. So eventually they're going to probably want to write those off too. And we are just going to be stuck with cars that are fully electric. So hopefully all houses will be built with really strong charging stations. Hopefully more than one, because what if you're gonna have one EV car for yourself, and maybe your spouse or somebody else in your household has an EV car. How are you guys gonna share one charger? So if you're not trickle charging it, I'm hoping that that's gonna take forever, these trickle chargers. So I think when the Leaf came out in 2012, the sales guy told me that you weren't allowed to actually order one of those cars until you had a contractor come to the house and put a sufficient power supply in for the charger. And then once that was installed, your order was able to go through. And that just kind of stuck with me. So all houses are eventually going to have the correct charging power supply for these vehicles. More than one, like I said, maybe. I don't know. But this is just what I do know. Don't hate me. This is just my opinion. And, it means nothing to you guys. But, I don't know. I stand with just, the way things are now. And I wish there was a way we could make it better so, gasoline cars didn't have to go at some point. But that is still a very long ways away. There is still a lot of time before, the government really hammers down on eliminating gasoline vehicles or fossil fueled vehicles. So yeah, I mean, there is still time to make a lot of improvements on the EV cars, and maybe one day, they really will be, the best reliable source of transportation. We'll have road trips, configured to the way that road trips are now, where you don't have to wait a half hour for your car to charge up. You can get in, do a really quick charge, even though it's probably still going to hurt the battery, but I don't know. The ranges, as we, kind of seen on the Leaf at least, the ranges have definitely improved, so that's good. I mean, we're heading in the right direction. I just also feel like we're heading there a little too fast, and there still has to be work done to the EVs. So I don't know. That's all that I've got for today. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this little talk about, my opinion on the EVs. Hopefully some of it made sense, and like I said, I'm not going to argue with anybody about this stuff here, but we still have time to improve the EVs, and hopefully we just continue to get it right the further on down the road we go. So I will see you guys next time. Thank you so much for tuning in. Take care.